What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Classic Octane. I am Taylor. So this week's video was originally going to be on the R65. I have finally gotten the material I've been waiting on for our rear suspension design I talked about in the last video, the kind of monoshock setup we're going to be doing. But last night I got the very exciting news that the KZ750 was accepted into the hand-built motorcycle show, and now we got to get this thing show ready. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the hand-built motorcycle show, it is put on here in Austin, Texas by my buddies at Revival Cycles. It is a huge international show. They get submissions from around the world. Typically the show happens every April, right around the same weekend as MotoGP. I had my Triumph Bobber in the 2019 hand-built show. This was accepted into the 2020 show, but unfortunately about a month before the show was supposed to happen, the whole world went into lockdown, so there was not a 2020 or a 2021 hand-built show. So this April, fingers crossed, as long as nothing happens in the next few weeks, the show is back on. So we got our notification that 3 weeks from today, this thing has to be delivered to downtown Austin. The problem with that is I built this thing two and a half years ago, and it's a scrambler, and I use it as a scrambler. So I've done a ton of off-road and gravel roads and single track and all kinds of stuff, and this thing shows 2.5 years of wear and tear. And if it's going to be in a show like that, we need to do our best to try and freshen it up. So that's going to be the name of the game today, is try to put a little bit of lipstick on this pig so that if you guys can come out and see it, it looks as good as it can. Overall, the condition is not bad. I've been very lucky that I have not laid it over on the rocks or caused any kind of major damage. Most of it is pretty trivial. So there's some discoloring that's happening to my fenders right here. You can see it's kind of brown on the left side. That's just where we brushed it, a little bit of maybe surface rust or something coming through after being in the elements for 2 years. Similar thing happening on the front fender we'll have to address as well. There's some oxidation on the engine. So you see this kind of white cloudy stuff that's just in some of the cracks and crevices and stuff. I'd like to get rid of a lot of that if at all possible. Huge amount of dirt everywhere, which is obviously going to be the first step. There's some maybe a little bit of leaks from our bowls on our carbs, just little touch-up stuff here and there. Nothing too terribly dramatic. I'd also like to clean up my wiring. I was on some single track and I had a branch get caught in this back tire and it ripped part of my wiring for my turn signals and brake light out. So I want to address that, tidy that up a little bit. So it's going to be just a lot of cleanup work. So let's push this thing outside and give it a good hose off. Gave it a good wash, and now I've come in and dried it all off using a microfiber towel and then also my air gun to try and blow as much of that water out as possible. What I want to move on to now is some touch-up paint. So unfortunately I don't have this original green paint to be able to touch up some of these little nicks and stuff on here. We're just gonna have to live with that. I might be able to get some of the haze and stuff out with a little bit of a compound and polish. So we'll probably try that later. But for now, I'm gonna move on to the frame. I do have paint for that. I've always used this VHT roll bar and chassis paint and had really good success with it. So a couple of spots, like some rocks or whatever, have flown up and kind of chipped the paint a little bit. So I'm just gonna go around with a little brush and some of that paint in the cap and touch that stuff up. I'm also gonna go ahead and remove the mirrors. And then I think I'm going to remove the license plate as well, just to kind of clean up the rest of the bike. Once I'm done with that, we'll move on to probably cleaning up the wiring under that rear seat. But for now, touch-up paint. It's cleaning up really nicely. I was actually able to use some green, I think it's deep jewel metallic paint that I had left over from a previous project, and just fix a few little kind of dings on the tank where there was some primer and stuff showing through. Now for more than a foot away, you'll never notice it. I'm still working on the engine, and I'm kind of running into a bit of a wall here because I tried to use some metal polish to get some of this oxidation off, and it's really not working all that well. So I'm trying to figure out what I can do to kind of freshen up the look of the engine without going too crazy. I don't want to pull it out and paint it or whatever. It'll just look too kind of artificially nice. but I would like it to look a little bit better than it does now. So I'm gonna need to look into see if there's some kind of spray on kind of mag aluminum polish or something that I can use to freshen that up. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this rear seat off so we can just kind of tidy up some of that wiring that was hanging down. And then, honestly, we're getting really close. Looks like all this needed was an extra zip tie or two to make sure that the wires don't hang down into the tire. Also keeps everything tucked even with all of the frame rails, so there's no random wires kind of hanging down. So that should be perfect for what we need, which I don't think we need to do anything else in here. I'm allowed to have the battery charged. We will need to drain all of the fuel out of the gas tank just because they have a bunch of bikes in an indoor space and you're not supposed to have fuel in there. I don't remember if I need to drain the oil or not either. I'll have to look at that, but I'll probably go ahead and drain that fuel out just so I don't forget. So far, this thing's looking pretty darn good. Well, I don't know how long or particularly interesting this video ended up being because it cleaned up really well. I'm extremely stoked with how easy it was to bring this thing back to, we'll call it show-worthy condition. So we are officially 3 weeks away. When you guys see this video, 3 weeks from today is the Hand Built Show. So if you guys are anywhere near Austin, Texas, please do come out to the show. I'd love to meet as many of you guys as possible. I will announce a couple of days before the show some particular times that I'm going to for sure be there. You know, maybe Saturday at 1 p.m. so that you guys can try and be at the show at the same time. If you see me there, please do feel free to come up and say hello. I'd love to meet as many of you guys as I possibly can. So I appreciate you watching this one as always. Again, I know that this one wasn't particularly exciting, but that's good news. The KZ is show ready, so please do come out and see us. I'll see you guys in the next video.